Hello. Today we're going to talk about modal verbs. Specifically, we're going to talk about should and could. Okay? Now, what is a modal verb? A modal verb is very simple. Like the name says, a modal verb is something, is a word that modifies the verb. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, I can say, I can play basketball. Now, you remember from our other classes that can is a modal verb that expresses ability or capacity. So I'm going to change can to a different color. All right, so this is a modal verb. What it's doing is modifying the verb. Now, I'm not saying that I play basketball. I am telling you that I have the capacity or the ability to play basketball. Now, let's talk about should and could. We're going to start with could. Could expresses option. So what you're saying with could is the options, the possible options that you have. And so we'll give you a situation. Let's say that we have a little boy, and this little boy is walking because he wants to go swimming. So let's say that this little boy, and we're going to call him Timmy, is walking to go swimming. When he's walking, he sees a sign. All right, and the sign says, "Attention, no swimming." Now, Timmy now has two options. Option number one, he could do what the sign says. So he could do what the sign says. Okay, and so here, could, which is the modal verb, is telling me that this is an option. All right, he could do what the sign says is one option that he has. Another option that he has is ignore the sign. So he could ignore the sign. Okay, so this is the second option that he has. He could do what the sign says, or he could ignore the sign. Now, okay, so could expresses the options. But one of the two options is a good idea, and the other option is a bad idea. So option number one, of course, is the good idea. So I'm going to use should, because should expresses that the sentence or the verb that you use is a good idea. So I'm going to say, he could do what the sign says, but he should do. It's a good idea to do what the sign says. Okay? So now, should over here is telling me that this is a good idea. He could do what the sign says is an option, but he should do what the sign says is because it is a good idea. Obviously, he could ignore the sign is not a good idea. It's actually a very bad idea. And so I want to say the opposite of this. So I want to say he shouldn't ignore the sign. And I'm saying that it is not a good idea to ignore the sign. Okay? So shouldn't tells me that this second idea, oops, let me change colors for that. This second idea of ignoring the sign is a bad idea. So you can see that the modal verbs, just like can, have the same form for the negative. All right, so I can say could not, or I can say couldn't. I can say should not, or I can say shouldn't, like you see here. All right, so that's the idea for modal verbs. And for could, remember, could is to express the options that I have, and should is to express what is a good idea.